Welcome to One Simple Recipe. We are hoping to get you one step closer to better health. I'm Judy Matusky. I am a registered and licensed dietitian, as well as a culinary nutritionist with Athens Nutrition. And it's good to be back today. Every Thursday at 11:30, we have another One Simple Recipe for you. And we'll walk through it. It's actually called Sushi Bake, which I came across this recipe and I thought, this is a really interesting twist on sushi. I don't know if you've ever made sushi rolls. I have. It's actually really fun. It's a fun kind of like family, friend activity to do if everybody's making their own rolls. It's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of work and it does take a lot more time than this particular way of making sushi. So it's a little riff on sushi. Somewhat authentic, but not everything. So, and I don't claim to be any expert when it comes to Japanese cooking. That is not really where I tend to live with a lot of my recipes, but I do love it. So I love the cuisine. So this is really fun. I will talk you through a couple real quick things. So I have the rice already cooking. So I wanted to get that because I had to get that done. It takes about 20 minutes, but that's really going to depend on your rice. So I picked up this brand of rice, Nishiki. It's a medium grain rice. Traditionally, sushi rice, I think, is really short grain, but I always have a hard time finding the short grain, so I just went ahead with the medium grain. The shorter the grain, the starchier it is, and then, it holds together better when you're making sushi, and, obviously you just don't want to use long grain rice because that's designed to really be fluffy. So anyway, the main thing with any kind of sushi rice, medium grain, short grain, because it is so starchy, you really do have to rinse it. And that's a super important step, so don't skip it. So it took me, I was going to say probably like 3 really good rinses, of like maybe changing out the water. You can see when you're, using like a fine sieve, you could just, run it underwater until it runs clear and it's not like a milky white anymore, or you can submerge it in some water and just swish it around. But it does take a little bit. You want to make sure you get a lot of that extra starch off. So that's a pretty important step. And then you just follow the directions on the package. This was 1.5 cups of rice to 2 cups of water. You're supposed to let it sit in your pot for about 15 minutes before you cook it. I did maybe 10 minutes, and then it takes maybe 20 minutes. So mine's almost ready to go. So I just wanted to check it. Let me grab a hot pad here. So I might need a few more minutes, but basically, when I tend to cook pasta more than I cook rice. So what you're looking for, I just want to make sure that all of the liquid that I put in here is gone, and it is. It looks like it's been totally absorbed. I don't see any. So that was on for just a little under 20 minutes. So I'm just going to let this sit for just a little bit before we kind of finish that rice. I'm just looking at my hair here. Sorry. So anyway, we'll finish that up in a minute. But before we go to the rice, what you're going to need is a 9x13 pan, and this is going into the oven. And I just sprayed it a little bit. It doesn't really stick that much, but just to be on the safe side. We're going to put the rice in here after we season the rice, but because I want this rice just to sit here for a few minutes, I'm going to hold off on doing that. So we're going to jump over and do the next part of it. So this is kind of in a couple different steps. So first step is really just cooking your rice, and then you're going to season your rice, which is what kind of makes it the sushi rice, and we'll talk about that. Then the next step is you're going to make the crab salad, in a sense, that's going to go on top of your rice. Now, let's talk about the ingredients in that, because I'm using the imitation crab. You could use this. It's really kind of surimi, which is just a white fish. Usually it's Alaskan pollock. I get this from just a local, it's called Wild Fork. It's a place here in Ardmore. And the reason I get it there is I like it because sometimes these imitation crab legs or crab meat, there's a lot of extra ingredients added that aren't necessary. And I like getting it from there because it's pretty much just the white fish. They use, I think they were using paprika to make it the red color. Was like a natural kind of way of coloring it. And then it does have salt and it does have sugar added. That's just part of making it, and a little bit of starch. but it shouldn't really have much more than that. So this recipe, for those of you who are salt sensitive, just forewarning, this is a higher salt recipe. It just is. Sushi is. There's just no way around it. Sushi rice, the way you make it, you have to add salt to it to really give it the flavor that you're looking for. So you could reduce it a little bit, but this is definitely going to be a little bit more on a higher sodium. But again, serving it, you know, with a big salad and, you know, again, I'm sure it would fit well into your plan. But this will be a little higher sodium choice if you're going to use the imitation. I kind of like it because it just makes this dish so much easier to do for me. Again, pretty, you know, a little more economical, and kids love it. And so I use that. This is about 1.5 pounds. The recipe calls for 1 to 1.5 pounds of this. You could use salmon. You could use canned salmon. I haven't done this way, but you probably could use canned. You could use fresh salmon and then just cook it and break it up. Any fish you use needs to be pre-cooked, so you're not going to use any kind of raw fish in this. So whether it's shrimp or whether it's salmon or whether it's tuna, you could go in those directions, but you definitely want it to be cooked. Then you're going to break it up to make this salad. So anyway, so that's what I'm using. And I'm adding, we're going to make it a little bit on the creamy side. Now this, again, not traditional. I am using Greek yogurt to kind of cut the mayonnaise a little bit in this. The original recipe called for cream cheese. I don't know. I don't really use cream cheese that often, so I don't usually have it in my fridge. And I felt like the mayonnaise brings enough richness to this that you don't necessarily need cream cheese. So I always have plain Greek yogurt. So 0% milk fat, that's what I'm using. So it's about 3 tablespoons of that. Kind of depends on how much fish. I have 1.5 pounds. I might need a little bit more. 3 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of mayo is going to be enough for 1 pound for sure. So I'm going to do 2 of this. Now I did buy, because I took a trip to H Mart, which is, we have one up here in the Northeast in Philadelphia. Really fun field trip with my daughter. Got a lot of different things. I don't typically have QP mayo. That's not something that I would have in my refrigerator, but I do now because I was there and I picked some up. Basically, you could use regular mayonnaise in this as is, fine, no problem. QP mayo is just a little bit, has a little richer, it's made with more egg yolks than regular mayonnaise, and it has a tanginess to it, a slight sweetness, slight tang, but not too much of either. But if you wanted to, you could use regular mayonnaise. And you could add a splash of vinegar to this, like rice vinegar. You could add just a dash of sugar if you really wanted it to mimic the QP mayo. But I think regular mayo would work really well. I, again, would make it with just regular mayonnaise. I just happen to have it. So, all right, so we have the mayonnaise and the yogurt that's going to add the creamy base. Now we're just going to season it up a little bit. So it calls for, I think, a tablespoon of like a low sodium soy sauce, and this is a Nori. So this is usually the brand I love to grab. I picked this up. I think I got this at Costco because they had it no, I got this at H Mart. I did. They had a nice big one. So we're going to add that, and then I just have to check my directions here because I always forget exactly what goes in. Oh, some sriracha. I realized I didn't have sriracha, so if you do, sriracha is great, or another hot sauce would work. This was a homemade hot sauce that a friend of ours gave us from the summer, and I'm still using it. So I'm going to add about a teaspoon or so. The original recipe called for 2 tablespoons of sriracha. That's a little spicy for me. I would have used 1 to 2 teaspoons, but it's up to you. If you like it spicy, go. I'm going to use about a teaspoon or so of that, of the hot sauce in there. And then we have the soy sauce. I'm going to add some scallions here. I had a whole bunch of scallions that I just chopped up, so it was probably 6 or 8 scallions. I think the recipe calls for about 4. I love a lot of scallions in this, so I'm going to use a fair amount of this and save some just to sprinkle on the top. I'll put mostly the whites in here and save some of the green for the top, okay? So we have the yogurt, the mayo, the sriracha, the soy sauce, the scallions. That's pretty much it. I'm just going to mix this around. So that's kind of the base. And now I'm going to add the imitation crab. I might need a little bit more of this dressing. I'll have to see, because again, this is 1.5 pounds. I think usually I end up with 1 pound of it. That's often when you buy it, you know, it's usually like in 8-ounce packets or 16-ounce. So But this I bought, like I said, from Wild Fork, and it was a different measurement. So anyway, all right, so I'm just gonna stir this around. So we're just trying to get this, oh yeah, I think this is actually gonna be enough for the 1.5 pounds. So this is just creating some nice flavor within the fish, all right? And I like this dish because it's easy, and again, kids love it. My 1.5-year-old grandson loves this, loves it. So when he comes up, I'll often try to make it for him. Sometimes I'll use salmon if I'm making it for him, rather than the imitation crab, just because it's a little saltier and fresh salmon's not. I am taking some of these bigger pieces of this crab, and I'm just going to break it up a little bit because some of those were bigger than they need to be. All right, so this looks pretty good. So we're just stirring this around. This in and of itself just makes a great little crab salad, as is. I mean, you could just serve this right over a good, nice big salad, you know, and then you've got yourself a really nice little protein salad option. But I do like a nice little trick if you want to cut the heaviness of mayo is to lighten it by using Greek yogurt, a non-fat plain Greek yogurt. I always I usually do maybe, you know, 2/3 yogurt, 1/3 mayo, or you could do 50-50. It just depends on what you're going for, your preference. Okay, so that's pretty well mixed together. All right, so I'm just going to sit this off to the side. Now let's bring over our rice. That's been sitting here for a few minutes, and it's off to the side. All right, so here we have our rice. It looks like it's pretty well cooked. I'm just going to take a fork, and now I'm just going to fluff it up, and it's sticky. We want it to be. I mean, that's the whole point. So when you're making sushi rice, it is going to be a little sticky. It's not the fluffy long grain rice that like a basmati rice or anything like that. All right, now to this we're adding, this is how you're kind of this isn't how you make sushi rice. I mean, honestly, if you're making authentic sushi rice, it's a whole process. It's a different process. This is a quick, cheap way to do it. So we're adding, I think it's 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. And with rice vinegar, you just want rice vinegar. You don't want a seasoned rice vinegar, because then there's going to be more sodium and sugar, and we don't need that. All right, we're going to add some of that to the rice to begin with. So about 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. And this is 4 cups of cooked rice. So that's what the recipe for the rice on the package makes. So 4 cups. And then, so that's the vinegar. And then we're going to add about a tablespoon of sugar, which I already have measured out, just white sugar. And about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, all right? And you could try a teaspoon, but it does really kind of need it, I just have to say. So just so you know, the sushi rice is typically a blend of rice with vinegar, with rice vinegar, with a little bit of sugar, and then with salt. So sushi rice is sushi is salty. It just is. It doesn't necessarily taste that way, but the rice that's being used is going to be salty. And then we're just going to kind of fluff this around a little bit. All right. All right, now, so let's bring back the pan that we had ready. And now I'm just going to take the rice, and we're just going to put it right in the bottom of the baking dish. All right? I'm going to use a spatula here to get this spread out. All right. All right, so the rice, stick it a little bit here to the bottom, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to just put a little water in this so it's easier to clean when I'm finished up. All right, so now you just take your rice and we're going to spread it out on the bottom. And it's hot, which is fine. No big deal. This is going in the oven anyway. It's really steaming. I'm getting a little facial here. All right, so we have the seasoned rice. That's our sushi rice. Spread out on the bottom, pretty evenly. All right. Then we're going to take another seasoning that, again, some of these things you're going to probably need to take a trip and buy. You know, you can find most of this in your supermarket. You don't have to go to a specialty market to get this. We just happen to have a really nice specialty market for Japanese different items here in Ardmore. But then, like I said, we did a little field trip up to H Mart. This is furikake, which is a Japanese seasoning blend. It's basically sesame seeds, white and black sesame seeds, a little bit of salt, It's nori, broken up nori, which is the seaweed. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And that's about it. So we're going to use about 2 tablespoons now to just, and I'm going to eyeball it. I'm just going to sprinkle this over the rice. And this kind of brings in the real sushi vibe here. Although we are going to use a little nori at the end. I'll just show you that. So that's about 2 tablespoons over your rice. All right. And then this is just nice to have on hand. I like this on a lot of things. It's great just sprinkled on rice, but I sprinkle it on salads. It's really good on eggs. It's a nice little seasoning to have. I think I actually picked this up at Trader Joe's, but you can usually find this at most stores. All right, now we're going to take all of the crab that we just made, and that's going to go over our rice. So again, this is so easy and so fast. You can absolutely pull this together on a weeknight. It's so easy. And you'll have leftovers, which is great, so you can have it the next day for lunch. When I do make this, I usually make a really nice big salad with some ginger dressing to go with it, just to complete the meal. All right, so here we go. So that's all in. All right, let me put this in the sink, and then we're just gonna spread this out. Oops, I just dropped some on the floor. Let me grab that. Spread that out over your rice. All right, let me just grab, I just dropped some on the floor here. All right, and then the only last thing we're gonna do is, it uses about a quarter of a cup of the furikake seasoning, 2 tablespoons go over your rice, and then we're gonna use another 2 tablespoons on top of the crab that we just put in. So it's about a quarter cup total. And then that's it. So I'm only going to talk to you about what's next, all right? So the next step is basically, this goes into a 400, so there you go. Actually, it looks really pretty too, doesn't it? And it makes a lot. So this goes into a 400-degree oven. Now I'm not going to bake this now. First of all, it takes, I think, 15 minutes, but I'm going to have it for dinner. So I'm just going to now put this in the refrigerator, and I'll bake it tonight. But, so once you bake it, you're going to take it out of the oven just like this. And then now you can embellish it. So this is where it kind of brings in more of the sushi roll vibe. So you're going to want to get some nori strips. Nori is just a type of seafood that's, traditionally used in making sushi, and then you can put it in soups and put it on top of salads. So you take the strip, and what I do, you can do a couple of ways. If you want to serve this all on one strip, you could put your crab and then kind of fold it over and kind of make it like a little sandwich. I usually cut this in half, and then I'll just take some of this out, like a square of it out, and put it on here, and then, or in the middle, and you kind of can make it, you can sort of wrap it up like a taco, and then you're sort of eating it like a taco. You could roll it. You really could. I have it. I usually just make it more like a sandwich or a taco when we're serving it, but you certainly could. So you have a lot of options on how you might want to use the nori strips. You can, like I said, cut them up. You can make smaller ones, make a bigger one. The other option would be to get like the seaweed snacks that are like already, on the smaller side. And this would be more like a little appetizer. So you could, again, sort of the same thing. You probably can't roll these as well because they kind of break, but you could put it more on there and sort of turn it more like into like a taco or a little, this is like for example, or like a little sandwich using these. I don't typically use the snack seaweed, but you could. I usually just use the nori strips. Now, and then with that, so once you can have it just like that and be done. Now, if you want to add more, obviously you would get out the traditional kind of things that might accompany a sushi roll. So wasabi, you could mix up a little wasabi with some soy sauce, and then, put that on after maybe after you put it on your nori sheets. You could chop up some cucumbers. You could chop up a little avocado. I happen to have some pickled ginger. So you can, I will definitely add more of the scallions when I serve it this evening. You add a little more hot sauce, you know, so it's really up to you. So you can embellish this as much as you want with your favorite sushi accompaniments, you know, a little more sesame seed. It's pretty much whatever you have out here. Or you can just have it as is and just let it and be done, you know. So it's up to you. So this does bake. You serve it warm, but when I have it the next day, I don't usually reheat it. I just serve it cold, which is great. So it's great cold, it's great warm. Anyway, nothing in here needs to be cooked. That's why you have to use cooked seafood. So if you're not using the imitation crab, then you definitely want to use cooked salmon or cooked tuna or cooked shrimp. You have to use something that's cooked because we're just warming this in the oven. All right. So that's an easy, super easy sushi bake. I think everyone's going to love it. Let me know if you do make it. I will be back. Am I back next week? Yes, I think we're going to do some seafood recipes over the next couple of weeks, and I am going to highlight some tinned fish because I love it and I want you to love it and I want you to be using it more. So some of our recipes are going to incorporate some tinned fish as well. Again, reach out. Nutrition counseling is always available virtually for you. As long as you live in the state of Pennsylvania, our dietitians are available for you. If you need any help with your eating plans, with your nutritional guidance, you know, maybe your cholesterol is getting a little bit higher, your blood sugar is just a little bit more difficult to control, that is what we do. And, you know, using a lot of the types of recipes that we cook here on Facebook Live. All right, so stay well till next week, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.